Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen. Welcome to the fourth episode of Forthright's series on cyber hygiene. Please feel free during the webinar to use the chat for any questions you have. Um, Before we jump into cybersecurity, however, I'd like to give a plug once again for our monthly newsletter. We're continuing this raffle for subscribers through the summer, so there's still time to enter. You can either scan the QR code or go to success.forthright.com/spot-on and subscribe to our newsletter. You can also, I think there's a pop-up if you go to our website, forthright.com. But yeah, we'll be announcing the winner at the end of the summer. And I will put the link in the chat. But now I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week and all looking forward to the weekend. I'm Steve Zoberg, one of the founders at Forthright. Thank you, Kristen, for the intro. I'm very excited to host this new series focused on cyber-related topics. These episodes are going to air twice a month. We'll try to stay laser focused on one topic per session. Let's kick off for today. As we've stated before, we're all exposed to cyber threats every day. We all hear about these breaches. You can't seem to stay out of the news more than a day or two. This impacts us as professionals and as individuals, because we're constantly looking for the various ways or to learn more about the different threats that are happening and the strategies that we can use to protect ourselves and the organizations that we work for. And unfortunately, there's no magic bullet that protects us. But there are frameworks that we can follow, and these frameworks definitely improve our odds at defending, detecting, and limiting the impact of a breach. And that's what we're going to be talking about during these series. Obviously, we all have to stay vigilant because cyber threats continue to evolve, and at the end of the day, it's become a complicated battle to keep your data and your identity safe, both personal and from a organization standpoint. Over the course of this series, we're going to show you why tools are not enough. We'll also show you how Forthright has helped our clients not only protect themselves, but also identify breaches as they're happening, so that way they can be stopped in their tracks. Even though the average breach isn't detected for over 200 days, you don't have to be part of that statistic. It just doesn't need to be you. So this is why attending a cyber series like this is so important, I think, for all of us. And we at Forthright, we believe that cyber hygiene, it starts with each of us and each of you. And of course, following a solid framework that we can adopt and in not just leveraging tools, as I mentioned earlier. And we know this because we have decades of experience doing this. We know this because Forthright meets with many clients each month. And through the various conversations, we learn a lot about their real life challenges. And unfortunately, we learn about their breaches. And we know, of course, this from firsthand knowledge that we gain during these strategy conversations and updates with our clients, because we understand at the root what was actually effective in the field, and equally, if not more important, what was not. So having a solid understanding of the current trends and their effective impact allows us to leverage modern cybersecurity frameworks to better protect ourselves and, of course, our community. And so at the end of the day, our goal here is to share with you what we've learned. And what Forthright does is to successfully protect our client ecosystem so you guys can do the same in your organizations. So today, we're on episode 4 of a 4-part series on what is cyber hygiene and how you can implement it in your organization. And of course, this brings us full circle to the goal of Forthright's cyber series, and that is we want to share our knowledge. We want to share our wealth of experience, and we want to share our real-world examples with as many of you as possible through this series. And we want to share with you how you can fight back and tilt the odds more in your favor, because right now we seem to be losing this war. So we've decided to use this forum as a way to drive thought leadership in our community and do so in a quick fire style, so that way you can join us twice a month for about 20, maybe 30 minutes and get back to your day. But each time you do, you're going to learn something new. And at the very least, you're going to be able to check in on how your current strategy is doing and how it compares to best practices and maybe what others are doing. So of course, we encourage questions. So please feel free to ask them. You can do that by the chat in this webinar live. You can also send us an email at success@forthright.com, and we'd be happy to respond or include that in our next conversation. Now, if you've missed our last episode, I encourage you to go to success.forthright.com/cyber series. We'll have this up on a future slide. And then that will allow you to click on the episode that you've missed. And on the registration page, you'll find a link to the recording, and you can rewatch any of our past sessions on demand. Actually, I would say even if you saw them, but you want to rewatch them because you wanted to capture some part of the presentation again, feel free to do so. It's one of the reasons why we post them up there. Now, the last time we met, we covered steps to implement cyber hygiene. And today we're going to jump into part 2 of that conversation. So as we continue the cyber hygiene journey, we're going to take this continued journey with our host for these conversations. Let me introduce Forthright's Chief Information Security Officer, Heath Geeson. Heath, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Let's jump right into this continued conversation in the series, part 4 of implementing cyber hygiene. Take it away.
Thanks, Steve. As Steve mentioned, our goal for this series has really been to bring information about cyber hygiene to an audience that's not necessarily security related or technical people. The trick to properly implementing cyber hygiene is that it's a team sport within your organization. And truthfully, it's much more of a business operations issue than it is a technical issue. There's technical things that need to be done around it, but being successful in implementing it is that team sport that requires the entire team. And that's really what I'm going to focus more on today. It's about putting the right company policies in place and then ensuring the process and work steps followed by the people in your organization are in alignment with those policies. The first episode, I kind of talked about why we need to pay attention to cyber hygiene. What is it, why there. Second episode, I went more into what is cyber hygiene. The third episode, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I strongly suggest doing so. We talk about the Center for Internet Security's critical security controls and some publicly available tools that you can use to track your progress on implementing those controls in your framework. Again, if you haven't seen them, I encourage you to go watch those. It's going to give you a lot of context and set the stage for the information I'm going to talk about today. You can do so just by going to success.forthright.com/cyber series, and that link's going to be in the bottom of the slides throughout my presentation today, so you'll be able to see that. In this episode, I'm really going to talk about how to continue your cyber hygiene journey by implementing a governance, risk, and compliance program. Now, that's a big term that can mean lots of things, but we're really just going to go and give a high-level overview on how to assemble that team and how to structure a GRC team in your organization with the idea that you're trying to accomplish and meet implementation group 1 of those Center for Internet Security's critical security controls. So let's jump in here. First thing I want to do, and I've talked about this on every episode so far, it's that important. I'll probably mention it a couple more times today before today is over with. But I want to make sure we understand the difference between a program and a project, because implementing this in your organization is a program. It's not a project. A project has a specific start and an end. A program starts and runs for a long period of time. A project focuses on delivering a specific outcome within a defined scope. A program steers a group of projects towards a long-term strategic goal. It is important to remember implementing cyber hygiene and any GRC program in your organization is a program, not a project. All right, so I'm done preaching on that. Let's jump in here and talk about building a sustainable governance, risk, and compliance program. A well-structured GRC team facilitates collaboration across departments, leverages cross-functional expertise, and drives consistency in managing the governance and risk and compliance of the organization. First thing you need to do is assemble your team. So let's talk about deciding on team size. Typically, this is a mix of senior executives and other key personnel. We'll talk about the roles here in the next slide, but you should try to keep this about 6 to 8 people. Smaller organizations may have fewer. In bigger organizations, it's very tempting to have a large group, but that usually leads to dysfunction, just like in any large group, right? And not a lot getting accomplished. The members should have diverse backgrounds. Should have someone from finance, someone from operations, someone from sales, someone from IT, someone from product design. This will ensure a comprehensive approach to your program. You may even want to consider including external advisors or experts for specialized insights. At different times throughout your journey, you're definitely going to need to have some outside expertise come in and help you out with some topics, help guide you the right direction on what you're doing. Whether that's in the beginning, that's later on in the journey, that's up to you. But it's definitely an option that is available to you. So you need to define your objectives and your scope and clearly outline those objectives for the team, including the governance, oversight, risk management, and ensuring compliance with the selected framework, such as CIS that we've been talking about, any other laws or regulations that might apply to your organization. And then you need to determine the scope of the team's work, specifying the areas of risk and compliance it'll oversee. Maybe your team will only focus on a specific business unit, maybe only on a specific area of your business. Select a leader that has strong leadership skills. Ideally, this person will have some experience in the GRC realm, not necessary, but some. It would be nice. This can be an outside subject matter expert. This is a central figure that's going to lead the program and focus on guiding this organization or guiding this team to meet the needs of the organization. Create a charter for the team that outlines purpose, authority, responsibilities, defines meeting frequency and reporting structure. Ensure that charter is approved by the board or whatever is the highest governing body within your organization. Clearly define the roles and responsibilities of the team members. We'll talk about those roles here on the next slide, but next, make sure you're creating a timeline with milestones so progress and success can be measured and reported upon. Establish regular meeting time. I can't stress this one enough. As humans, we are creatures of habit. And once we let a habit fall, it's hard to get back into that swing of things. A good friend of mine always tells a story about this, how he and a really good friend of his for 3 years through college met every morning on Tuesdays and played racquetball. And then one time they weren't able to do that, and then they never met again. I use that to demonstrate the example of make sure you establish that regular meeting time. Make sure it's a priority. There will be times where there are conflicts, but this should be a priority to your organization, and make sure you dedicate that time for you guys to get together and discuss it, and that it's a meeting time that everybody can on a frequency that works for the team. So what roles and responsibilities should you really be looking at here? Well, the GRC/risk manager, this is really going to be most likely that figure that leads your team, your GRC team, focusing on the risk assessment, the risk management strategies, and communicating risk and compliance information across the organization. Internal auditors. Now, not every company has people who are labeled as or titled as internal auditors. That's fine. What we're really looking for people are the people who have the personality and the traits that would lend themselves to being an internal auditor. Some of these may come from your finance team. Some of these may come from your product testing teams. Internal auditors are really going to scrutinize the compliance with the framework or the regulations and internal policies. They help to ensure that your internal controls work as intended and that no risks really go overlooked. Information security professionals. Now, not every company has those on staff either, although there's usually somebody on the staff that's a little bit more IT minded, or maybe they are the IT person for the company. And while IT people and security people are cut from the same cloth a lot of times, don't always have the same knowledge base. Most IT guys can moonlight or work in a committee like this wearing that information security hat, right? They're tasked with safeguarding the organization's data. These experts generally manage your IT systems. They'll implement cybersecurity infrastructure and measures and really work to support the integrity of your data security and your practices. Legal compliance officers, again, if you don't have a legal team on board, there's usually someone in the company that's got a little bit more experience than someone else. They're going to help you interpret and navigate the landscape of the regulatory requirements, the language and the controls, assuring that the organization complies and is working towards complying with all applicable laws and standards that you need to. Business unit leaders. Now, this is where we get to like enrolling all of the parts of the organization, right? We want to make sure we've engaged directly with operational activities. These business unit leaders, they're out working with all the different teams in each different unit. So they're going to be key in helping conduct risk assessments and ensuring that their teams are adhering to the policies and procedures that this committee is going to put together and get approved. And your senior executives. Most of the time, none of this can happen without backing from your senior executives. So it's good to have them, a representative from that team or a couple on this on your GRC team, so that they can align the efforts with the organization's overall strategic objectives and help foster that culture of compliance, and risk awareness throughout the organization. Here's some additional considerations to really think about here. Leadership commitment. I just talked about this with having a member of your senior executive on the team. Strong support from top leadership is crucial to success of your program. Ensure that leaders champion the initiative and allocate the necessary resources. Talked about bringing in maybe some outside specialists or consultants to help you with things. Well, that translates to someone having to approve the budgets to be able to get those resources. Risk assessment and management. Identifying and managing risks are going to be at the core of your program. Categorize risks, assess their impact, and develop strategies to address them. In episode 3, I pointed out how you can use some free resources from CIS to conduct risk assessments within your organization. Those exercises should result in the creation of a risk register. This is really just a list where you catalog and prioritize the risks facing your organization. Once you have the list, then you can develop a plan based on priority or criticality and start addressing those things. This is all naturally going to come about as you start to follow those CIS controls. And as you start going down that road, it's going to occur to you that you really need to do a risk assessment to have a better understanding. Like I said, that should result in your what we call the risk register. It's really nothing more than a list, usually done in Excel. Clear policies and procedures. As you're going through those controls we talked about in the last episode, you're going to need to develop some policies. Then you're going to need to develop some procedures, maybe some work steps that support those policies and how your organization does things. You need to make sure that those align with your organization's missions and your goals. And these guidelines will help ensure an effective GRC practice within the team, within the organization as a whole. Continuous monitoring and reporting. It's important anytime you do set out to do anything, that you continue to monitor your progress. You continue to monitor that what risks you've taken on, how you've reduced them. You continue to monitor what policies you put in from a governance point of view and how those are being implemented, how successfully they're being implemented. So make sure you're implementing some reporting mechanisms to track progress and address any deviations. Usually these are done through some sort of KPIs. And I'll talk here in a minute on how some of that's already available to you through the CIS tools I talked about in the last episode. Training and awareness. Educate employees about the GRC principles, about cyber hygiene principles, and what their role is in helping maintaining compliance with those principles, right? Again, that helps foster that culture inside your organization of awareness and accountability. Technology integration. Leverage technology tools to streamline your GRC process and other processes within your organization. There's many integrated solutions that can help enhance collaboration across the roles and all the processes and activities. You can use things like Teams, SharePoint, good old-fashioned email. In the last episode, I showed you the CIS Control self-assessment tool. That is a great example of an application you can use to track your GRC team's progress on meeting those CIS controls. It gives you reporting mechanisms. It gives you the ability to collaborate with the other people on your team as you address those things. So if you haven't done it yet, I highly recommend that you do that. And in that last episode, there was several links that you can use to go and download that tool. So let's just recap here a bit, right? Obtain leadership commitment for your program, assemble your team, make sure key roles and responsibilities are addressed within that team, start with your risk assessment and a risk register, Pick a control framework, such as the CIS Critical Security Controls, IG1. Not too much to bite off there. Gives you the just right amount to really address what you need from an essential cyber hygiene point of view in your organization. And then measure and report on your progress. The only thing I would add here is if you have any challenges with this, feel free to reach out to people who have been down this road before and know how to go there, right? It's a little bit, programs can be run a little bit different in every organization and everywhere you go. So it's about doing it. It's about putting that first foot, one foot in front of each other, taking one step at a time and getting down that road. So that's what I had to deliver to you guys for today. Thank you so much for sticking with us. I do want to mention that we are adding a panel discussion on the July 11th. So if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to submit them via the chat. Feel free to email success@forthright.com, and we'll make sure that our panel addresses those for the next presentation. With that, Steve, I'm going to hand it back over to you. Thank you for the introductions and your time today as well.
Thank you, Heath. Thank you, Heath. That was another great session. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. And Heath, of course, thank you for the guidance on how we all can implement cyber hygiene in our organizations. Gives us lots to think about and prep for. Kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, but while we all wait for the next episode, some of you have joined us, might need some help. I know we've talked about a lot of different things. And as you start deep diving into these areas and start following some of this guidance and looking through the different resources that are available for CIS and the various frameworks, you might need a deeper dive conversation. And so if you feel like, you know what, I really would like to specifically talk about some of this that I'm reading that I'm not fully understanding, or I want to get more feedback on how I can actually do this from a practicality standpoint, we're happy to jump on a call with you, answer your questions. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can send us a note at success@forthright.com, and we'll make sure that we schedule a call with you with a private one-on-one discussion. And I am excited to announce that we have, in fact, as Heath mentioned, locked in our bonus episode for this series, which will be the panel discussion focused around the practical application of cyber hygiene in different organizations. Our guests are people who actively do this on a regular basis. They don't just understand it from a conceptual perspective, but they actually are involved in the implementation of this in various organizations. And their goal is to answer your submitted questions and share their experience from the field, and of course, provide information on actionable items that you can take to better understand and improve your security posture through this process. So as he stated, definitely would encourage you to send us questions either in the chat or send us an email at success@forthright.com. Or lastly, you can actually respond to the email poll that you'll be receiving. And that's another opportunity for you to put in your questions there, because there's a section there that you can freeform put questions. We do review all of that. We appreciate your feedback, so keep that coming. And lastly, if you've ever wondered if your current cyber technology or your current cyber strategy that you have in place today, because everybody has something, right? Is it effective? Is it something that is actually driving benefits for you? You might want to reach out to us for this complimentary network cyber threat assessment program that we have. This evaluates your network traffic. There's a lot we can see just from looking at your network traffic. We look at it for about a week. We produce a report. We show you what we found. Think of this like a self-assessment tool, which takes a theoretical look at vulnerabilities and it puts a spotlight on them if they actually are present in your environment. So that's very helpful when you're having conversations with other leadership members in your team. A lot of times people feel like, well, this is not going to happen to us. It doesn't apply to us. And in this case, this arms you with information to say, no, we actually have this particular problem in our environment and we should address it. And then, of course, there's different ways of addressing it depending on what you find. But anyways, it is sponsored by one of our partners. And so the good news is you don't have to do it yourself. And it's a way to confirm that you're doing a great job or expose some weaknesses that gives you an opportunity to actually address them before they become an issue. We send you out a pre-configured collection device. We guide you through the entire process. So if you do have interest in learning more about this, or you want to schedule a discovery call for us, again, respond to the email poll or send us an email to success@forthright.com, and we would be happy to meet with you. Can't wait for the next session. That's going to be a very dynamic conversation with these gentlemen. It's only a few weeks away, so make sure that you mark it on your calendar and that you don't miss it. And as a reminder, you can review our upcoming schedule as well as past topics and future, of course, and replay your sessions by going to success.forthright.com/cyber series. And we'd love to hear your feedback, as I shared with you. So keep that coming for those of you who've submitted. We'd like to hear from the rest of you. We're going to wrap up this episode of our cyber series, and as promised, we did it in under 25 minutes. Yeah, this week, which is great. Make sure you register for the next session. And with that, I wish you a great rest of the rest of your week. Stay vigilant, stay secure, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Forthright's Cyber Series webcast. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you.